Hello, everyone, and welcome to the RealClear Politics Takeaway for Thursday, November 11th. I'm Tom Bevan, co-founder and president of RealClear Politics.
And I'm Carl Cannon, Washington bureau chief. I'm wearing my glasses today, Tom. I forget how handsome you are when we
Happy Veterans Day, Carl.
You know, Tom, this is the centennial of the Tomb of the Unknown Soldier, of that concept. And today, before, actually, as people listen, this probably would have happened early in the day, but they'll be playing taps in Washington at the new World War I memorial. There's nobody left from that war left anymore, but we remember their sacrifice. And there's a group that called the Doughboys Foundation has arranged for taps to be played around the country and bells tolled at 11. And as you remember, an Armistice Day was the 11th hour of the 11th day, and that's what they're commemorating. And I think it's important to keep in mind. We don't talk about that war much, but it was America's entry into the world stage.
Yep. And we do need to continue to recognize that, even though there's a lot going on in the world, Carl. And part of that, one of the stories is President Biden was in Baltimore yesterday promoting his new infrastructure plan, which he hasn't signed yet, but it's certainly been passed by both houses of Congress. But Carl, we got some news about inflation yesterday. 6.2%, I think, largest increase in 30 years. Gas prices, food prices, you name it, it's gone up. And cars, housing.
Everything. I mean, these are not luxuries we're talking about.
Everything has gone up. Yeah. Biden referenced that in his remarks yesterday, but this is clearly a political problem for the White House. I don't see them really doing anything to address it, Carl. What can they do? What should they do?
Well, the administration only had a few days of respite. It was real. The Bureau of Labor Statistics came out with a jobs report last week, and it was stunning. 500,000 new jobs created. Not only that, another almost 300,000 jobs in August and September that they hadn't counted. So it was really great news. And then the news, yesterday look, inflation eats away at people's paychecks, and Joe Biden knows that. He talked about it. He faced it squarely, I thought, in Baltimore. He said, "Yeah, we've got to." He admitted that this was a problem. I mean, not a political problem for him. The way he casts it as a problem for all Americans, and I think that's the right way for the administration to talk about it. What he said was, and what White House Press Secretary Jen Psaki has said, and others from the podium, is that they believe the infrastructure bill and other things that the administration is doing to break the log jam in the supply chain will help with this. They're right now looking at the supply chain. Nobody wants to think yet in the administration that their policies and that the spending has an inflationary effect. So what they're saying now is that their policies will get a handle on that. And I guess we all hope that's true.
More spending is not going to tamp down inflation. I mean, that's a fact. That's a reality. Joe Manchin tweeted this the other day that, which I think caught a lot of Democrats maybe by surprise, maybe not, but said, look, we've got to start taking inflation seriously. Does this put the second half of Biden's spending plans in Congress in any jeopardy, Carl?
Well, if Joe Manchin is the deciding vote, you'd have to think it might.
Yeah, I definitely think that it does. All right, Carl, one more topic before we go. The Kyle Rittenhouse trial that's going on just north of me in Kenosha, Wisconsin. I've been watching this. A lot of people have been paying attention to it. LeBron James tweeted about it. Even Hakeem Jeffries, the top House Democrat, tweeted. Now, if you've been watching the trial, you know that the prosecution is in serious trouble. A couple of days ago, their star witness, the one person who survived, he was shot in the bicep, Gage Grosskreutz is, I think, his name, admitted under oath that he had his gun pointed at Rittenhouse when Rittenhouse fired back at him, effectively confirming a claim of self-defense. There have been other issues. Yesterday in the trial, the judge yelled. I haven't really seen this before, Carl, but I mean, this judge absolutely upbraided the prosecution for trying to basically sort of do an end run around one of his rulings to admit into evidence, questioning about his Fifth Amendment rights and whatnot. I mean, it was pretty serious. Now, if you haven't watched the trial and you've just read news reports about it, you might think that the case is going along well for the prosecution and that Kyle Rittenhouse might actually be convicted. But we had, it's probably, I think most people think it's headed for an acquittal. The defense has rested its case. I mean, the prosecution rested its case. The defense shockingly called Kyle Rittenhouse and put him on the stand. He testified yesterday, broke down on the stand, and was, explaining his version of the events that took place last year. I don't know if you've watched this, Carl, but I think there's going to be Tom, a dramatic difference in a lot of people are going to be caught by surprise the outcome because they haven't actually watched what's been happening in that courtroom.
Well, you never know what a jury is going to think in a highly profile case like this. Are they worried about extraneous things, about riots around the country? That they'd only be human if they were thinking of some of this. Yesterday in New York, a Black Lives Matter person basically threatened rioting and violence if the new mayor brought back an anti-gang task force. So you don't know what extraneous things they're going to be. But Tom, this was always going to be a tough case to win. The narrative in the media was, why was this 17-year-old dolt even there with a gun? And it was
running around shooting people, vigilante style.
Yeah. Well, I don't mean that. But why was he even there?
That's what the media said.
Wait. You can stipulate that he shouldn't have been there, and that he made a bad situation worse. You can stipulate to all that. But then in this case, the definition of self-defense is what this was always going to be a hard case to win, because people are running at him. Guys threatening him with a skateboard. Another guy has a gun aimed at him. This was always going to be a hard case. And I don't know that the prosecution's done anything wrong. I just think this was a difficult case to win. I'm not sure they won't win it, but it was always going to be a tough case.
Well, I mean, the question is whether they should have brought the case in the first place, and did they bring it because of the media narrative, because of the political pressure, right? Because if they had, had they just not brought this case, there would have been outrage. And you mentioned the jurors, Carl. Yeah, I mean, we've seen in the past few days, there have been folks who've been trying to dox the jurors. They were videotaped at their pickup. The judge revealed that the other day. The police actually approached the person and made them delete the video off their phone. But there are attempts in broad daylight to intimidate jurors and even the judge in this case, which is, again, so there's a lot of political pressure on this case. And I think it's all, unfortunately, again, trying to set up the idea that if Kyle Rittenhouse is acquitted, that this is somehow going to be a miscarriage of justice, and that will provoke more riots in Kenosha and Chicago, all around the country.
Well, let's revisit this after there's a verdict.
Okay, let's do that. We'll keep our eye on it. And we'll leave it there for this morning. I'm Tom Bevan, co-founder and president of RealClear Politics.
And I'm Carl Cannon, Washington Bureau Chief, and this has been the RealClear Politics Takeaway for Veterans Day 2021.